with Casey Burns, the maker of the famous Casey Burns flutes. And Casey, I was just going to ask you to tell us a story about when you first met the founder of Lark in the Morning, Mickey Zeekley.
Sure. Mickey is a very, very dear friend of mine, and I've known him for almost all of my flute career. I started back in the early 1980s, and with a one-day apprenticeship with a oboe maker, Douglas Steinke, who was making Baroque oboes, and found myself with a lathe in that fall. Started making reamers and such, and by about January, I started making flutes based on a few very poor measurements and stuff that I had acquired, and so I made maybe 20 flutes, and that sort of worked. And I was kind of audacious. I decided, since all my friends were headed up there to perform, to go up to the Seattle Folklife Festival that takes place every Memorial Day weekend at Seattle Center. So I get up there, and I set up my 20 or so flutes, minus the first 5 that were just basically non-functional flute-like objects, and I see the other vendors setting up, and I see this place, this guy drive up with this van and load instruments after instruments after instruments, and I look, and they had flutes, they had uilleann pipes, they had concertinas, and I thought, I'm in the wrong business. I should go back to being a bike mechanic, because they were already doing it. It was really impressive, and I met the owner, who was just busy getting his booth all set up, and so later on in a weekend, he came over to my booth, Mickey Zeekley, and he tried out every single flute, every single one of them, and then he said, "These flutes all play like crap." I said, well, I explained, I just really started doing this. I just had a one-day apprenticeship with an oboe maker, and I'm totally new at this, and I want to get better at it. And he said, well, what are you doing after the festival? I said, well, just heading back to Portland, which is where I was living. He says, well, make some time and we'll get together, and I'll show you some flutes that would be good ones to pattern your flutes on. And we did that, and Mickey showed me some of his Pratt flutes, which became the basis for my design. And and our friendship started there, and we spent some really nice time right after that. I went down and visited him the following winter, and also found out about Lark Camp, which is a great week-long music camp in the woods that I've been going to ever since about 1985. And he availed me of his entire collection of flutes, and I went through and measured several instruments when I was there, and it really helped with the development of my instruments over time. And then at a certain point, I moved down to Mendocino to be near him, as well as to be near Rod Cameron, who was a really great Baroque flute maker, who's also been another friend who I've known throughout my flute career. And one day Mickey gives me a call, and we're making these pretty faithful acoustically copies of the Pratt flutes, which have really wide finger holes. And Mickey says, "Casey, is there any way you can make these with the finger holes smaller and closer together?" And I said, "That's so that they fit people with small hands like me." And I said, "Yeah." I said, well, I'll give it a try, and that's how I developed my small-handed flute. What's funny is that what we developed as my small-handed flute is what I call my large hold standard now. I've taken that development smaller and smaller, and I think that that's been a service to the flute community, especially to a lot of female players who have petite hands, as well as to many of us who now have hands that are racked with arthritis and are having a hard time holding a flute with wide holes, myself included. From 35 years of flute making, I need a smaller flute to play myself. And so anyway, so Mickey was very influential. He's been a great friend the whole time, and and continues to be. And I owe a lot to him and stuff, and to Lark in the Morning. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, Casey.